3, 2.
Good evening, everybody. This is Jeff Colson with Junior Hockey Advisor. Welcome. Welcome to 2021 Hockey Talk. Tonight, we're going to try to get into a lot of different discussions on this is all driven by you tonight. This is all things that you've brought up on some direct mails, direct messaging, some emails. You've put them up on the discussion boards, Facebook. We're just going to dive into as much as we can tonight, with the overall theme being planning and getting ready for the next year here and moving forward from there. Let's get rolling on this. I think it's going to be a good show. I think we're going to have a lot of fun, and thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. All right, so here we go. The plan. 2021, we're finally here. I think we've all been waiting for 2021 for obvious reasons, and just to get moving, new, fresh. Let's get this party started, and no better way than to get the new year started for me than to talk to you about hockey and some of the things that you've been looking to get answered and to try to find out. And I think the biggest theme I could take from reading your comments and looking at things is combines, tryouts, showcases, and trying to get your hands around that. And this is, the age now for combines and tryouts and the whole discussion around that really starts at probably 13, 14 years old. That's when the discussions start becoming a little bit more serious. 15, it becomes, the priority, getting to the right showcases, getting to the right combines. And so let's just go through this. We'll discuss a little bit about the difference between a combine, a little bit of a difference between what kind of combines there are, what levels of combines there are. We'll talk about showcases a little bit. And this is redundant to some, but I hope that those that have already heard some of this stuff from me take the time to put some good comments up and to help others that are in our group here, which you've been doing all week long. Thank you for everybody that participates in the discussion group, the Junior Hockey Advisor Facebook discussion group. It's been unbelievable how much that has grown over the last year. It hasn't really even been up a year yet, but 2020 and the pandemic really sparked the growth of the group, the site, the Facebook page, the web page, and I appreciate all the support. But you really are doing the work. You're actually giving the comments that feed and the color that feed and driving the direction of this. And I chirp in from one, here and there. I give a little bit of advice here and there, but really it's the group, and the group is taking care of themselves. So first, before we get going, let's say hi to some people out there. Christy in Maryland, we've got Jacob. Jacob is, he's one of our winners of our tape packages. So Jacob's coming on from Winston-Salem. We've got Dante coming in from Rockford. Mark from Bloomington's coming on there. JJ's got a question. I'll get back to that in a little bit. Coming in. Sean's coming in. And Sean is two Seans. We got Sean S-E-A-N and Sean S-H-A-W-A-N. And I wonder if that's generational. I wonder if that's millennial versus one of those other age groups, and how or is that male female? I don't know. I can't answer that. So maybe some people can help me out there. I think it's generational. I think younger people go S-E-A-N. I think the older crowd goes S-H-A-W-N. Yeah, let me know. One of the two Seans, pipe in, give me your thoughts on that too. Ken's coming in from Saskatchewan. It's always fun when Saskatchewan comes in the house. Dana's coming in from New Hampshire. We've got Kurt with Muskegon, Michigan, God's country. We got Brendan coming in. I'm not sure where Brendan's coming in from, but he's there. And we've got a Brandon and Brendan side by side coming in there. Lenny has been on, as always, from Boston. Blake's in from Vail. Patrick's in from Toronto's in the house. Cleveland with Brendan. Jeff's coming in from Wisconsin. Help me out on the pronunciation there. Is it Wausau? Wasu? Help me out there, Jeff. I'd like to know that. I do not know how to pronounce that properly. JJ's coming in from Grand Rapids, like Muskegon. of course, it's close to God's country. Just so you know, if you don't have it down pat yet where God's country really the epicenter is, it's really around Charlevoix, Michigan. That's where the epicenter is. And then anything out from there is close to God's country. So just so you got that down pat. Oak Lawn, Donna's in. We've got Velmont, British Columbia, and we've got Jeannie from Flint, my cousin Jeannie coming on. Tim from KC. We've got a great crowd here tonight. So thank you. I don't want to spend all night. We've got one of our largest crowds starting off the bat. If you don't know much about us, I am Jeff Colson. I am the junior hockey advisor. I am not an advisor by trade. Been in the industry for 35 years now. And I've been an owner, a junior owner for different levels of teams. I've been a general manager. I've been a coach, level 5 certified with USA Hockey. I have an MBA in finance that kind of steered me into the business side of hockey. I've been a professional scout. I've done it all at different levels. And I'm here to try to steer you with direction through information and education. And that's what we do. We try to educate. We try to keep everybody going in the right direction with getting the right information in hand. So let's jump in. Let's get a bunch of stuff going here. I really think that I want to start off with first, there was a question that came in about the dead period. And the dead period being the NCAA recruiting dead period. I guess the biggest thing that we have to say about the dead period is there's really little you can do about this, and there's really little that you have to worry about with this. Really, this means that coaches are not en masse at rinks. They're not out working actively to engage publicly. However, they're still there and they're still active and they're doing things in different ways. What it does not preclude you from doing or spending time doing is mailing, sending videos, sending emails, and making contact. You can still go to a campus. You can still visit a campus. You can still walk over to the hockey office and knock on the door and introduce yourself. Those things are all still legal, and you will still get interaction from there. What you're not going to see is you're not going to see coaches in the stands. You're not going to see that interaction at the rinks. They're not going to be pulling players out of the locker rooms. But what I would say about this is this, like so many other things that are going on with the pandemic, don't put too much time and effort worrying about this. It's a short-term situation, and it really, if there is if you're of age, meaning you're a junior or senior in high school, and you're in that position where a college wants to talk to you, they can reach out and talk to you, and they will find a way to communicate if you are in a situation where they can speak to you. What this means, the dead period is that there's just a freeze on the recruiting process to an extent of they're not going out there and working the public. So don't worry about this. Don't let this get you down. Don't let it slow you up on your plan. What I will say is this is a perfect opportunity to jump into reaching your ultimate hockey goals. It's a 4-step to kickstart your hockey journey. If you haven't, grab this video. It's on our YouTube page. It's on our juniorhockeyadvisor.com page. And it's also on the video section. Ooh, I don't like the way that's on. Yeah, there we go. It's also on the video section of our Junior Hockey Advisor page, not the discussion group. You can find it if you go through and scroll through the discussion group too. But I would grab this because it's still very relevant, especially if you're a new parent, on trying to build that process out, getting everything laid out for your run at college hockey and also junior hockey. This is your preparation guide. It teaches you who to surround yourself with. It teaches you how to go about the process. Now, I don't advocate for or against advisors. That is a very personal decision. That's a decision that everybody makes in a different way. Some great hockey players that are in the NHL never had an advisor until they had to hire a professional because they had a contract. Okay, then there's other people that at 14 years old, 13 years old, have a family advisor, and it was prudent, it was the right decision to make. So that's not my decision. However, once you go through this, there's other videos and there's other webinars that I have that I can help you if you decide to go down that road to hire an advisor that will help you lay out the game plan for that too. With that said, that's only part of what I wanted to talk about. But getting back to that NCAA thing, don't get hung up on that. It's not really a deal breaker. It's not something that's going to get in your way right now. If anything, what's going to get in your way is the pandemic in general. because of the fact that they've added a year. They've basically given every NCAA player a free year, a year to return. So instead of having 5 years to play 4 years of college hockey, which is the norm, that's why in some sports you'll see the word red shirt used, because especially in basketball, football, they'll red shirt a player, meaning they will he'll be in school, he'll be practicing with the team, or she will be practicing with the team, and they spend a whole year with the team, but they don't participate in games, or they participate with a very limited amount of playing time, very restricted amount of playing time, so they can have 4 full years after that. Now, you can redshirt your freshman year. You can actually redshirt your last year if you played 3 years in a row and you wanted to redshirt your senior year and then come back for post-senior year. You can do that too. It just doesn't happen very often. But with this pandemic, everybody's been given 1 more year. So even that player that redshirted, now he's got 6 years to play 4 years and actually can play as much as they want this year. They can actually play the whole season out and still get another year of eligibility out of this. So I still don't believe that you're going to see a lot of seniors take this up unless they're pursuing hockey as a career or they're able to keep their money. In other words, if they can stay in graduate school under scholarship, they might stick around. But realize, at the Division I level, the best you have on a team is 18 scholarships. Most teams carry 28 players. Okay, so, and that's not talking about the Ivy League schools that don't have scholarships. That's not talking about, let's say, Union that doesn't have scholarships, RIT that doesn't have scholarships. We're talking about the schools that do have scholarships. There's only 18. There's usually 28 players on the roster. So do the math. Not as many players are on scholarship as you think, or they're on partial scholarships or on their limited scholarships. I think I've told you about, I have a relative in my family, number 1 USHL overall draft pick, first kid drafted, 6'4", 2-time national champion back-to-back, leading scorer on the national championship team coming out of U18 at 16s and 18, and got his full ride, or thought he got a full ride scholarship, got a scholarship, and then it was limited. He had to grow into a full ride scholarship by the way it was done. So this is not something that is a give me. You know, getting a full ride scholarship is not is not something you should expect. I think the first threshold is to get to junior hockey. The second threshold is to start getting some attention by doing a good job and putting your work in, and then pursuing to see what options you have at that point. So getting back to that original conversation, don't worry about that NCAA thing. Let's jump into the combine thing, though. So a lot of you had questions about combines. And the original conversation came up about the USHL combine. And a nice little conversation going on the discussion group about, what is the USHL combine? Is it valuable? Is it worth it? So let's just back up and talk about combines in general. So there are league-sponsored combines, there's privately run combines, and there's combines that are, possibly 1, 2, or 3 local, or not even local, junior teams that team up together to run a combine. Combines do not have to be league-sponsored. However, you'll see that the USPHL, the USHL, the North American Hockey League, they all run some form of combine. Now, the USHL combine, and I don't know about last year, but I believe it's still held in the Chicago area. The USHL combine is a good event. There is nothing wrong with it. However, if you take the time to look at the event, you will see that the event does not attract every level of elite hockey player. It will get areas, pockets of great players, but it doesn't cover every area. And you'll also see, if you do your homework there, that there are players from some areas that aren't well represented with Tier 1 hockey, but they'll still have players from that area. And that's cities, states that just don't have strong programs. They'll still be there. And that's fine, because the USHL combine is a little bit different than the others. The USHL combine is a big event. I know my son participated in it years ago. And there was a big dinner. They introduce you. They show you a lot of videos, and there's a sense of building an awareness of the league for players just as much as it is looking at the players. However, even though every team participated, some teams participated with a much more of a zest and a enthusiasm than other teams. In other words, there were some teams in the USHL that were there in name only. and sent the minimal amount, and then there are other teams that really put an effort into it. You will see that is not, that combine will not have, as the years go on and those players move into draft status, not all the draft players are there. In fact, you could possibly argue that less than half of the kids that eventually get drafted are there, or even a lower number than that. That's not to say they don't use that. It's not to say that there's not value in it. However, there are other showcases where the correlation from being at the showcase to actually playing in that league are much higher. Remember, the USHL is a small league. It's an elite league, and it's very, very difficult to play in the USHL. Okay, and it's built by design. By design, it's built to house some young players, some moderate players, and very few older players. That's why if you look at the average age of the USHL to the North American Hockey League, the North American Hockey League is a much older league by design. It's for players that are on a different track to get into Division I college hockey and then eventually to pro hockey than the USHL. The USHL, because of the national development programs involvement and the staunch backing of USA Hockey, as it's, that is the showcase program. It is the Tier 1 program for USA Hockey, as well as junior hockey. It becomes where the emphasis is put to get the best players. So you will see those are in that realm. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't see some of the best American players go up to the BCHL, because you do. And you'll see once in a while players that get NHL drafts coming out of the North American Hockey League. But the USHL is the pivotal number one, numero uno league as far as junior hockey in the United States, and arguably now, for North America. With that said, the showcase is not one of their priorities for drafting or one of their priorities for players. It's about awareness. It's about education, getting players, hyped about the league, excited, and taking that excitement back through the USA Hockey ranks. Is it a moneymaker? Of course it's a moneymaker. There is not a showcase, there is not a tryout that teams don't try to at least break even or make money on. And when you hear people go, oh, I don't participate because it's a money grab, then don't play junior hockey. Just don't play junior hockey, because every team's out there to make a profit. That's part of it. Okay, this is not a not-for-profit situation. Teams and owners own teams to at least break even if they're some kind of magnanimous, benevolent angel sent from God. The hockey God sent this person down. They at least got to break even. There's not that many people that have ever been in the junior hockey world, and if they have, they got out fairly quickly, that just keep throwing money after money into something that doesn't make at least a break even or strive to break even on this. So the showcase process in the USHL is its own anomaly. Set that one aside. Let's just work down the list and go into the North American Hockey League. The North American Hockey League has showcases, and they're pretty good, and they're pretty well attended by coaching staffs. But you'll see the North American Hockey League do something a little bit unique. Other leagues at lower levels do it too, but they'll combine 2 or 3 teams that are in the league will share a combine, a mini combine for themselves, a combine weekend, a showcase weekend. They don't call them showcase weekends, but you might find a team from the Southwest, a team from the Midwest, and a team from the East doing an event in Detroit, or doing an event in Chicago, or doing an event in Boston, just to attract enough players that are of quality. And then the 3 teams, if they've already earmarked who they invited that they want, first dibs at, but then the open cattle call for the rest of the players, it's open season on who's there and which teams you find a fit with. Do they work? Absolutely, if you get invited to those. So a few things to be thinking about. When you get around the age of 15, you're going to get invited, if you can play at the next level, you're going to get invited to be involved in junior hockey at some level, either Tier 3, Tier 2, or Tier 1. It is okay to skate in showcases. It's okay to skate in combines. It's okay to go to tryouts at 15 years old. Don't think that that's a bad thing. It's not. Don't think you're jumping the gun. It's not. Awareness of how it works is just as important. So there's a twofold way this is important for a player to be at showcases, to be at combines, and to be at tryouts. at a young age and even an older age. One is it's awareness and confidence from the player's perspective and the parent's perspective. After you've done a showcase once, after you've done a combine once, and after you've done an individual team tryout, you go to their main camp, you're totally different for the next one. You're prepared differently. You know what to expect. 'Cause it might not be the same team, but you're going to expect, and the expectations of how it runs, your ability to understand what to do and how to do things are going to completely change too. I'm just going to get that USHL thing off of there. There we go. And that's important because it's important to calm down. It's important to be aware of your surroundings. Exposure is the second part of this, and we'll leave that for a second. But let's just talk about being a confident player. If you go as a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old to a combine, a junior combine for the first time, there's 20-year-olds out there. It's a unique situation where you have a 4 or 5 year difference in age. And nobody's going to be nice to you. Nobody's going to take you under their wing. Nobody's going to say, come on over here, I'll protect you. It's you getting out there and doing it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lughead everywhere. But in general, players that are older aren't going out there to prove themselves against the youngest kid on the ice. There is a fairly unwritten code that a 20-year-old, if he's on the ice, is not going to do anything. They might check you, but they're not going to start a fight with a 15 or 16-year-old. It just doesn't happen. It would take a lot to get that to happen. So you shouldn't fear that. But what you should fear is there's bigger, faster, stronger kids on the ice, and you have to get used to being around bigger, stronger, faster kids. It's going to be that way for the next few years. So the confidence that comes with getting out there and saying, hey, I can do this. And it doesn't matter if it's a tier 3, a tier 2, or a tier 1 tryout. It doesn't matter if it's in Canada or the United States. There's going to be older kids out there. So you have to get used to it. That confidence of being on the ice and just being aware of how to pace yourself for the weekend, what to expect on a main camp or a combine. So that's important. I hope that helped a little bit on perspective of that. And we're going to talk a lot about this. And I'm going to continue to talk about the combines and things, but I want to get into a few specifics. I see some comments coming in. I'm going to jump in and see if I can help on the comments. So let's just jump in first with Sean. He says, last season, my son was part of the WSHL showcase in Vegas and was approached by a school in the U.S. As a Canadian, is there a financial assistance for Canadian players looking for U.S. colleges? So that is a great question, Sean. And yes, there is. So that question can be answered in a couple different ways. So are you eligible for financial assistance? Yes, you are. Any kind of grant and aid that's available, and there's international packages that are available too, can help out an American, it can help out a European, it can help out a Canadian. Yes, schools have packages for financial assistance. You have to fill out paperwork just like an American family would have to fill out, disclosing your bank accounts, your age, your wages. You might have to show some tax returns. But yes, if there's financial aid available in the form of grants or loans or any other type of aid, it's available to you. Now, over the last 10 or 15 years, it's kind of interesting how this works, and some of our ACHA guys might be on here, and we've got some ACHA general managers and coaches. Now, ACHA is not Division I, it's not Division III hockey. It is what's called the college club hockey. You'll find, believe it or not, that some of your best financial aid packages are in the ACHA right now, meaning let's just take, for example, a Division III school has a tuition, especially if you're out of state, and if you're from Canada, you'd be considered out of state or out of country. You're going to have a different tuition level than a kid that lives in that state. And it could be a very large amount. It could be a nominal amount. But let's say the school costs $25,000 American to go to the school. An ACHA school might be able to give you and let's say the in-state tuition is $16,000. They might be able to offer you right off the bat in-state tuition, even though you're an international student. And that happens a lot at the ACHA level. They don't have NCAA rules to follow when it comes to how they put their packages of money together. There were ACHA offers coming to some players we had 2 junior teams, one at a higher level, one at a lower level. Our lower level players were ACHA and some Division III players, and our top team was some Division III players and Division I players. Our bottom team would get ACHA offers. Sometimes they were incredible compared to the guys that were getting offers on the top team. Sometimes up to 50% off on the tuition right off the bat. Boom. And they're able to work deals for financial aid in a much, much different, more creative way. All legal, but just not under the same guise of what we know as the NCAA and how they do things, which is very strict and very formal. So right off the bat, I would say one of the things I always encourage people to do is take the time to look at some of the quality programs. Remember, Arizona State was an ACHA team, 4 or 5 years ago? Not only that, but if you look at Penn State, great Division I program. Up to a few years ago, that was an ACHA program too. You have some incredible universities with ACHA programs, and they have money. So just something to throw out and to think about across the board. It is something that's there. But the bottom line, and the question you asked on that, Sean, was, is there money available for Canadians? Absolutely. Division I level, you can get full ride scholarships. You can get loans. Division III level, you can get grants and loans, just like any other player. Now, the biggest difference at Division III that's changed, and this changed because some people were not playing by the rules, is that there is no sports or academic packages for players at Division III. They have to be equal to any student in the school. And the reason why is some schools, and I won't name names on this, you can take the time to look this up if you want on your own, would find ways to put 4, 5, 6 players into, let's say they had a German studies or a European studies program that had a lot of money on the campus. So a campus gets an endowment from somebody to start a German program. And there's scholarship money there, and there's a couple $100,000 of scholarship money there every year. So hockey teams, and not just hockey, other sports too, were actually funneling their players and saying, you really want to study German, don't you? And the kid goes, oh, I don't know. They said, no, you're going to be in our German studies program. And all of a sudden the kid's got a really good financial package, $20,000 a year, $15,000 a year more than other students, because they funnel all the athletes into that scholarship area. You can't do that anymore. That wasn't really that legal when it was happening. Those schools have all been kind of cleaned up a little bit that were doing that. But now any money that's available for an athlete has to be available for everybody at the Division III level. So you can't squirrel into something like that. A funny little aside story, when I was in college, one of the things that hampered me is I was a two-sport athlete. And one of the things that happens is you have to be very careful on where your financial money is coming from as a Division I athlete, because, and this is important for Division I athletes, that let's say a kid comes into a school and he's a baseball player, but he's an incredibly good baseball player that also can make it as a wide receiver, as a football player at the school. And let's say it's Notre Dame. Baseball is pretty big, but football is extremely big there, and it's considered their priority sport on the campus, no doubt about it. Well, if you've got a full ride baseball scholarship or golf scholarship or wrestling scholarship at Notre Dame and you play football, that's actually a violation. You cannot do that. Trust me, I found out the hard way on that. The reason is if you play, this goes all the way back. I can't remember if it was Oklahoma or Nebraska. One of the Midwest, big linemen, with the big, corn-fed lineman schools. It could have been Iowa. One of those. Their golf team had like 5 linemen on full ride scholarship at the school, and this is going back in the mid '80s. And it was deemed to be something that changed the rules, so that can't happen anymore. So be aware of it. But the bottom line of the question was, yes, there is money, and the money is available across the board for both in-state, for out-of-state, and for anybody coming in from out of the country. So good question. Thank you for asking. Let's see what else we got here for questions. Okay, I'll try to jump on this and see. I didn't really read this yet, but we'll jump and read it together. I have no idea what I'm doing. It's a couple of us. That makes 2 of us at least. with my 14U AAA, he just left home to go to Hockey Academy, but now what? I'd like him to have a more normal high school experience. This stuff is hard to navigate. It absolutely is hard to navigate. Take a breath. I get it, Kim. It is extremely hard to navigate this stuff at times, especially because unlike any other sport, if your kid was a basketball player, if they played baseball or football, it's a pretty easy and logical progression. You go from high school and you're playing college. We've got this whole intermediate step called junior hockey, and it does hit us right between the eyes and throws everybody for a loop. I can tell you this. I had 2 players go through this in my family, extended family even more. I told you about the one that was the first round pick. But having gone through this, even as a parent, it's tough. And I'm in the industry. There are things that throw me for a loop, and we questioned the things that we did along the path, and we questioned how we went about things along the path. And it's very, very tough, and I get it. So, but let's talk about it, because you're not alone. You absolutely aren't alone. We had another one come in from Alaska. The same exact question came in a little bit earlier in the week from Alaska. 14-year-old player, what do we do? They're in a market in Alaska where Tier 1 hockey is relatively new and limited, and they're worried about, can the player, is it time to move? And at the same time, you're asking, you want to have a normal high school experience. So normal high school experience in elite hockey is a relative term. I don't know if anybody in hockey can really tell you what a normal hockey experience or normal high school experience is in hockey. First of all, if you're playing travel hockey, you're not going to have a normal high school experience, because you're going to be traveling, even if you're in a local market, even if you live in your market and you're playing Tier 1 or travel hockey, it's going to make your experience in high school different than others, especially if you're playing at an extremely elite level that precludes you from playing a fall sport, or possibly even precludes you from fall and winter sports. Most likely spring sports you can still play. You see a lot of lacrosse and golf guys in hockey, but most Tier 1 elite programs, it's very difficult to play a full high school schedule with your high school. So that term, normal experience, and by no means, Kim, am I trying to pick on you on this, but it's relative. It really is. You cannot put the term normal on this, because what's normal for your family is not going to be normal for mine or the people down the road that are all on the same team. We can all be on the same team. There could be 18 of us, and what we consider normal is different. And I'll give you a perfect example. Pull up any U16 roster out of the Detroit market right now. Go right now. Pull it up while you're watching this and while you're listening to me talk. Click, open another window, pull up the Tier 1 Elite League, pull up My Hockey Rankings, get those rosters, look at them. And what you're going to see is every one of those U16 rosters have 3, 5, 7 that are listed as out-of-state or out-of-country players. Those players gravitate to larger markets and the largest market being the Detroit market for Tier 1 Elite. Now, the Boston area, Minnesota area, they have different roles inside of this big game that we play called, hockey, and these pathways. There's 3 pathways. You have the Minnesota high school pathway. Boom, that's on its own. It's kind of standalone. You have the mass market, which is anything on the East Coast that goes from youth hockey to prep hockey to junior hockey, then to college. The prep pull is extremely strong on the East Coast. Now, it doesn't mean there's not great prep programs out there other places. The rest of it all falls under the Michigan model, the Detroit model. But it doesn't mean you actually have to live in the Detroit model. That means you're playing youth hockey at 15, 16, and 18, and you're not focusing on prep, you're not focusing on high school. And in those markets, and that team could be the Colorado Thunderbirds, it could be mostly out of the Detroit or Chicago market, it could be some of the East Coast teams are still playing on the Detroit model, even though they're on the East Coast, meaning they're U16 teams that are pure. None of those kids are playing prep. So it gets more complicated than that. But the reason I brought that up is look at those Detroit rosters. What's relative on the experience is different. Now, I actually had a son. I'm in the business. At the time, I was the president of a youth organization. I had 2 junior teams, that still left our market and went and played in Detroit, lived with a family member in Detroit, spent 2 years in Detroit, graduated from a Detroit, actually Plymouth, Michigan, graduated from a high school in Plymouth to play the sport. He had an excellent experience. Was it the same experience he would have had if he lived at home? Absolutely not. Does he actually feel like he missed some things? Yeah, every once in a while you'd say, well, I really wished I could have done that, or I really wished he could do that. But he didn't miss out on everything. He still went to prom with his girlfriend in Michigan. He still graduated, walked down the aisle in Michigan, still had some youth sports experiences as a varsity athlete in Michigan for spring sports. It was just different. So it's relative on that. So just, I don't know, Kim, if I can actually give you any more advice on that except for hang in there. And somewhere between 14 and 16, if you're going to stay on this path, and this path of elevating up to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, there's going to be sacrifice. And I shouldn't say between 14 and 16. It's going to be between 14 and 18, 14 and 19. The sacrifice usually is that you have to leave home. And it's across the board. You could be lucky and you could be living in Detroit, but you'll see even those Detroit players, they have to leave to move into a different area in Detroit. Maybe they live up in up by Boyne City. They live up in Muskegon or over Muskegon. They have to move over to the Detroit market and build it there so they can play in the Detroit market. They live in Saginaw. They come down. And not every one of those kids is going to play in the Detroit market. There's Detroit kids that have to, or want to go play at Shattuck or Culver. They want to go play on the East Coast Preps. So it becomes very, very confusing. But just know this, that it's relative, and the sacrifice is usually leaving home. We all know that we have to sacrifice time. We all know we have to sacrifice money. The one thing that's really hard is the sacrifice family time. And that's the biggest choice and the biggest hurdle that most families come across. Not only the player, but the parents have to make that sacrifice across the board, and the other members of the family too, the other brothers and sisters and extended family. So I know I didn't hit that perfectly, but hopefully that helped a little bit. Let's jump on and see what else we got here. Abba says, from Alaska, son left at 11. Mom went along to a company. Normal life? Nope. Great ride, making friends and hockey experiences in Cali and then Michigan. Yep. From certain places, it's a life choice. It is what it is. We loved it. That's a great answer. I hope that is the experience most people have. That's a little bit extreme. Usually at 11. Now I say that's extreme, but I can name dozens and dozens and dozens of 11-year-olds that have made that choice. All you want to, if you don't believe me, and you've heard me talk about this before, go look at the Edmonton tournament, the brick tournament. Now, if you don't know anything about the brick tournament, 10 and 11-year-olds, that's the age group that start getting recruited at 9 years old. Look at those rosters, look where those kids came from, and follow their paths up. You'll find that many, many, many of those kids, the whole family moved up and transplanted, or mom and dad made a conscious choice for one of them to follow into a hockey market. It happens a lot more than you think. It's just not the elite of the elite, but there's a great example of how the elite players are doing it, even at a young age, 9, 10, 11 years old. You start seeing them starting to shift to markets. And I can give you stories from the 1991 birth years, the 92 birth years, the 93 birth years of many kids that have done that are in the NHL right now. The family made choices at that young of an age. So it absolutely happens. So let's get a few more comments. I want to make sure that I also get into some of the things that we said we're going to talk about. It's not too early to leave at 14, though. But it's not a choice that we collectively can make for anybody. Everybody here's got an opinion on it, but really it comes down to an individual family's decision, and if the opportunity is right. I wouldn't say I would leave just to leave. If there's a great opportunity, I think it'd be a good thing to look into if it's the right thing to do. Okay, let's see what else we got on the board here. We've got Renee saying we play out of district and drive far. Totally worth every minute, hoping that it'll always be a drivable distance, but no guarantees. Fully agree on that. So Richard said brick tournament. Yeah, it's called the Brick. If you just Google the Brick, I think you'll pull up Edmonton. They've got a brick series. There's a bunch of events that are around North America first. There might be 4 or 5 satellite tournaments, but it all builds up to the actual Brick in Edmonton. So you should be able to find that, Richard, and I hope that helps. Dale says, prep school is a great option, can experience a high school experience, great education, great hockey. Dale, there's nothing wrong with that. That's an absolute a good answer for some. There's a lot of things that goes along with prep school. It is a different experience, and remember, the pressure there is not only great hockey and great academics, which in most cases it's an elevated experience with academics for most, and it's an elevated hockey experience. But keep in mind, there's a large price tag that goes along with most preps. You have to consider that. If it's affordable, it's a great option. The other thing too is a lot of prep schools will ask for 1 year back. In other words, if you go to a junior prep, they want you to repeat. If you're coming out of the Midwest and you're going to the East to play, they usually want you to repeat a year before you go. Very common. And there's also the extra 1 year at the end that you can participate in after your official 12th grade year, your PG year. So all across the board, it's relative. Again, is it a great experience? Yes, it is a great experience if you go the prep route. But it's no different than the kid that's living in Minnesota that has a great experience and comes up through the high school ranks and plays there, or the kid that's living in the Midwest that's playing through the Tier 1 Elite. 3 paths, 3 pillars, they all work. I will not say that this one's better than that, because you can't say that. All 3 of those avenues and paths will all lead you back to junior hockey, because essentially it doesn't matter if I'm a high school player in Minnesota, I'm going to play junior hockey. Doesn't matter if I'm playing 16, 18, and 15, 16, and 18 in the Midwest in the Tier 1 Elite League, I'm going to junior hockey. It doesn't matter if I'm playing prep, I'm going back to junior hockey. That's the way it works across the board. So thank you for that, though, Dale. It's a great comment. Here's one, and this comes from Danilo. Hey, Jeff, I'm a European junior hockey player and would like to come and play Tier 2 or Junior A in North America. What is the process like for joining a team as a European player? Go to the video that the webinar that I explained a little bit earlier, and I'll put that back up again for just a second so you can see what it looks like. Reaching your ultimate hockey goals, 4 steps to kickstart your hockey journey. Grab that off of our juniorhockeyadvisor.com website. It's free. Go through the process and learn about building your team and building your process and getting your emails out. Essentially, if you're in Europe or you're in Canada and you want to play in the States, first step, go to every single website and see and learn about the teams. Start building your list of teams. Find out how many European players they have. There's a limit on the amount of European players that can play on USA Hockey sanctioned teams. Those rules are a little bit less when you're looking at playing on a team in the USPHL, the NCDC teams. I have a little bit more latitude when it comes to having European players. Now, the other thing I would say on that is explore their websites. A lot of websites will have prospective player fill-out forms. Fill them out. Go through the process, fill out those forms. Everybody should be filling out those forms. If you want to play junior hockey, you want to play college hockey, you should be filling out every single form you could find online so your name gets out there and you're put on lists. We've talked about lists before. If you want to play junior hockey, there's 2 ways you get scouted. Okay, either the team already knows about you or did their homework and found out about you, or you've put your name on the list because you've reached out to that team. 90% of the college coaches out there and junior coaches have 2 lists when they come in the rink. The players they already know they're interested in watching, and kids that have reached out to them that they think have potential. Now, the list of the kids that reached out to them may only get 2 to 3 or 4 shifts of actual viewing time, but you're getting viewed. They're going to spend most of their time on the list of players they're there to watch because they drafted the player, or they're thinking about drafting the player, or the kid was highly recommended by one of their scouts. Whatever the reason they've got their list, they've got their list. Every team puts that list together differently. The list over here, though, gets you over everybody else that's not on that list. Because you think just because there's a bunch of college coaches sitting in the stands or junior coaches sitting in the stands that they're going to watch your every shift. I had a great game. They're all going to come talk to me. It's not the way it works. They are all watching specific players. They've got their checkboard. They've got their board, their list of players that they're taking, they're checking off and watching. So when they're not watching that player on the ice, they're writing notes down on that player or the 2 players. They're not there watching the whole roster. They're not watching the whole game. They're watching specifically certain players. So you could be on the same line with a guy, and you could be a defenseman when 3 goals get scored. Unless they're there to watch you, they might not pick up any of that. Now, you get your name on that list, at least they're going to take some time to watch you and focus specifically on you, and that's what you want. You want eyes on you. So take the time to fill those out. Take the time to actually do that. It'll be extremely helpful for you in the long run to make sure that you do that. Email teams. Get your name out there. It's important to do that because you want to be on a list. You want to be. Now, what's the downside of that? You're going to get marketed to. And what you're going to get marketed to for? You're going to get marketed for their main camp. You're going to get marketed for their tryout camps. You're going to get marketed for the combines because now you're on mailing lists. So you're going to get a lot more than you want. You're going to get a lot more attention than you want, but that's really what you want in the first place. You want people, you want them reaching out to you. Then you can make choices on what's the right thing and the wrong thing to attend. But it's a double-edged sword. Once you give your information out, they're going to use it. They're going to email you for different kind of things. So, okay, let's see what else is coming on the board here and see if I can keep up a little bit. By the way, we've got a large crowd on. We've pushed up over 100 a couple times tonight, which is good. Know that we actually service with this video process over 10,000 people a month that watch the videos, and they mostly watch it on replay. So over the course of tonight, we'll pop over live over 100, which means coming in and out, we'll get a couple hundred people watching it. When we put this into replay, the numbers go wild. But I need you to do some things for me. Let's just take a time out. Everybody stop taking notes. Just listen to Uncle Jeff for a second. You need to help me grow this. Yeah, if you can, go to our YouTube page. Subscribe to our YouTube. It's the same stuff here, but it just helps me on my numbers, and it helps me grow this and to keep this sustainable. If you haven't already gone to our Facebook discussion group, go to the Facebook discussion group. Participate in that. Sign up for it. Tonight I'll sign you up, and I'll approve you tonight once you get on there. If you're not on our Facebook page, please go over and like and follow our Facebook page. It's all the same stuff. All the information comes in the same places. Not all of it. Some of it's limited to different areas, so you might get a little bit of different flavor from the different areas. More hard news on the page, more discussion about opinions on the discussion group, but it's all good. I need your help on that, though. That's my commercial, is to try to help me grow this, especially on the YouTube side. If you could take the time tonight just to jump over and go to Junior Hockey Advisor on the YouTube page, to subscribe to that. That's a relatively new thing we're trying to grow. We haven't really grown that in the past, nowhere near what we're doing on this. So thank you for supporting us, and thank you for the help. Okay, let's get back to some of the things that are coming on. Oh, look at you guys already done. Appreciate it. Okay, let's see what Kim says here. Kim, you're going to get 2. You're going to get actually 2 on the board tonight. What forms for junior hockey? Where do I find those? I misspoke. If I said forms, I meant just go on there, and when you click on a lot of the junior hockey pages, we'll actually have, do you want to play for us? And then you click on there and you can fill out their online form. So it's an online process. It's one of those things where you just do it online. You can do that for colleges. You can do that for Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Now, just so you know, if you go on and you fill out one for the Dubuque Fighting Saints in the USHL, and you're playing Tier 2 hockey up in Minnetonka, it doesn't mean that they're going to call you up and sign you tomorrow. Okay, let's be realistic here. Just because you're on the list doesn't mean you're always going to be to get looked at. They're not going to come out and watch Tier 1 game or Tier 2 games. The USHL doesn't go out and watch Tier 2 games. It just doesn't happen. Okay, so if you're at that level, be a little bit realistic in your assumption of who's going to come watch. If I'm a Tier 2 player and I'm a strong player, I'm going to be shooting for programs that are going to get me ACHA looks. I'm going to shoot for programs at the Tier 3 junior level that I know I can play at. So appreciate that question, but Kim, I got to give some other people some time now. So you gotta just give me some room here so I can answer some other things too. I'm just kidding. Okay. Let's see what Rich says here. Can you touch on the route for goalies? Should these kids look at other markets and try and find local training? That's a phenomenal question, Rich. First of all, there's never been a time in hockey where there's been more goaltending instruction available. Almost every market has some type of goaltending instruction, and the quality has gone up and up and up and up. Now, there's still different schools of thought. There's still different schools of teaching and methodology. And that's really a different, there's plenty of forums out there to discuss, what methodology and what style you want to be taught under. But the good news is you usually don't have to go far to find goaltending instruction these days, because it's out there if you just look. They might not have websites, but that's where you got to reach out to your youth organizations and ask them who they're using. You got to reach out to the rinks and ask them who they're using. Almost every mid-size or larger market, not all small, but mid-size and larger, and everybody lives fairly close to a mid-size or a large market, will have great goaltending instruction. So the first thing I would say is take advantage of local instruction. Yes, you can leave the market because you want to be trained better, but to be honest with you, in today's day and age, training, although it's essential and it's needed for goalies, really is one of the secondary reasons for leaving the market if you're a goalie. Opportunity and momentum on goaltending is extremely important, and momentum on goaltending is more important than any other position. If you're hot and you get an opportunity as a goalie, you've got to grab it, because, and I've told the story before, I've actually sat in the stands and watched players' careers be made over one flurry of saves at one combine or one playoff game, where a player went from being averaged or unknown to launching into a whole different stratosphere as far as playing at a goaltending level. I've never experienced that with a defenseman or a forward, but I've watched goalies do it, and I won't get into it tonight because we don't have time. We've really covered a lot, but I want to get through more. With goalies, it really comes down to taking advantage of your ability to find a competitive situation where you're going to play and compete against the best competition. Do you need to be on the best team as a goalie? No. It helps to be on a good team. It helps to have good defense in front of you, because your stats will look better. But we all know that there's goalies that have phenomenal careers that never played on a winning team until they got to the NHL. They never played on a winning team until they played Division I college hockey. It happens all the time. So I would not put training as the number one reason to leave a market. I would put opportunity to play for a quality program. You'll watch my videos, you'll hear me say this all the time. Playing for the right league and the right team is the most important thing you can do as a player, and it's relative. And what I mean by that is some players will not be able to play in the Tier 1 Elite League, but if you can play in it, it's an awesome place to play at U14, U15, U16. If you can play in the HPHL, it's a great place to play. If you can play in the Beast, it is. But it's relative. If you can't play in those leagues, you play in the next best league to that. But you're always trying to play in the best league, the leagues that push players to the next level, and that is something that you can look at it and learn about just by doing reverse engineering. You want to play at the University of Michigan? Find out where all those kids went to junior hockey, played junior hockey at. Then backtrack from their junior career. All this information is available on every single player through Elite Prospects. Work backwards from that junior team. Find out where they played their youth hockey or their prep hockey or their Minnesota high school hockey, and then work back from there. See what youth programs they came out. Almost every player, from U14 up. And you can also find out, you can also look at these lists and you can see where they played as far as, did they play in the Quebec? Did they play were they part of the summer festivals with USA Hockey? Did they play in the BRIC? Because Elite Prospects tracks the BRIC, they track the Quebec tournament. You can see where everybody comes from, and then you try to align as close as you can to the same kind of pattern if that's what you're trying to do. If you can't make it, you try to do the next best thing, and you try to get yourself up to the next level that way. So I hope that helped a little bit. Let me keep going with a couple questions. Let's jump on here. Do you think junior teams will rely on their spring camps more this year to find players or next season, given the lack of games happening this year due to COVID? My son is a second-year midget playing in the CSSHL and is hoping to make the jump to juniors next season. Great question. Troy, I wished I had a specific answer for that, but we're all in the same boat right now. I'm talking to junior coaches all the time. I'm talking to managers. I'm talking to owners. And the lay of the land is just not there right now. Nobody knows what's going to happen because nobody knows what's going to happen with Division I and Division III college hockey yet. Just like we saw a logjam of talent, because we saw suppression with Americans going up to the BCHL, because we saw contraction in the USHL, because we saw contraction in the North American Hockey League, we now have a concentrated amount of players. Just by the way, it's so concentrated right now at the USHL and the North American Hockey League. There are things happening that I've never seen before. I would never see a Division I committed player traded. It was an anomaly to see a Division I player being traded from team to team. It was an anomaly. I don't even think I've ever seen a Division I player cut from a NOL team or cut from a USHL team. Now, unless it was, some kind of gross misconduct issue away from the rink or something. But now there's such a concentrated amount of players, you're seeing that happen. That's how concentrated we are right now. So we're in this uncertain time of what's going to happen over the next few months. I would say this, there's going to be opportunity, and there's going to be quality hockey out there. And if it's not in the North American Hockey League, then you move back one step. Just like the players that would normally be playing in the USHL, that they had to take a step back and play in the North American Hockey League this year because the opportunity wasn't there. So what did the North American Hockey League end up as? Just the best North American Hockey League we've seen since the league is started. It's just loaded with talent. I think I've used this example before. Odessa, one of the teams in the league that was in last place last year. Now they're fighting for second place in their division this year. 10 Division I commits on the team right now. 10. Last year they had 0. They traded for one late in the year. They traded for one. They had one Division I commit on the team late in the season. That doesn't normally happen. A last place team doesn't come back the next year with that much talent, but that's the league this year. So we really don't know, and I'm not trying to tap dance on this, Troy. This concentration of talent, and if the Division I and Division III programs are really able to hold on to their players for another year, their senior class for another year, which I just don't believe is going to happen. But if it does, and I'm wrong, that's going to suppress some of the opportunities for the Division I players. They're going to have to push to D3, and some of those kids that would normally leave. For example, remember, junior hockey, the 2000 classes in their last year now. The 01s have another season. And a lot of those 01s would jump to play Division I hockey this year, after this season, I should say. They're going to stick around for another year. Those good 02s that would normally jump earlier because they're the cream of the cream for the USHL or the North American Hockey League, they're going to stick around for another year. So this might end up suppressing all the way down. But that doesn't mean you're not going to play junior hockey. It just means the next level down is going to be that much better. And if it gives you 1 year at playing in a league you weren't expecting to play at, be it the, if you're playing in the Canadian leagues and you end up playing in the AJ for a year, if you end up playing in the CCHL for a year or the OJHL, or you play in the NCDC in the United States, it's not going to be a bad thing. It just means that everybody's going to have to readjust a little bit about where they end up playing in the long run. So hopefully that helped a little bit. Great question. I just don't have a specific answer on that one, though. Let's try this. Okay, we're not going to do that. Sorry. I appreciate it, Alba, but we don't advertise on here. I don't try to give actual individual names out. You can do that. Please do that on DM in the future and do that directly. We've got so many people that are part of this group that support us without advertising individually. And I appreciate it if we kind of do that with DMs versus throwing that information out there, because then it becomes a competition of who gets out there. And then what happens is I've got a lot of instructors, I've got a lot of skill development people that are a part of our group and a part of our whole family, hundreds of them actually, GMs, and we're talking about from the USHL on down, the BCHL, we've got Board of Governor members that are a part of this. Then it becomes this race on, why did you let that guy advertise his guy? My guy's better than that, and I really don't want that. So use the DM if you can in the future. That'll help keep everything happy and everybody happy in the group. So, so let's see if we got anything else. So Matt says, it seems so political and how much money you're willing to spend to get a tier 1 team. Okay, so let's do this. I'm one of the belief that if you're in hockey and you don't expect to spend money, there are other sports out there where you don't spend money, and that's just the way it is. If you're looking to be a great player on a budget and you have a limited budget, there's ways to do this, but to say that everything's a money grab, that's not really the way things work. Are there people out there that make a profit in hockey? Absolutely. Are there people out there that make this a money grab? Absolutely. But politics are everywhere in life. There's politics in the classroom. There's politics on the job. Politics are people, and people have preferences, and there's bias on everything. I've done videos on this in the past on the different levels of bias that comes along with coaches. And there's many different perspectives coaches have and the biases they put on players and they put on parents. And it's hard to break out of those biases once a coach has put you into a category. But to say the sport is political, anything more than anything else in life, I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. I think that, yes, there are teams that are extremely political. And then it's relative, though, because there's the team down the street. You might be the best player on the next team down the street, and there's 3 or 4 people at the bottom of that team that think that team is too political because you're the best player on the team. So I just don't buy into that. I understand what you're saying, but and I'm glad Matt, you put it in a good perspective by saying it seems that way. For some, it seems that way, but it's a perspective issue. This is not a cheap sport. This is a very competitive and expensive sport, and if you're involved in this, you're going to spend money, and you're going to have to play the politics. You're going to have to be nice to people that you wouldn't normally be nice to. There's people that were nice to me all the way up when I could do something for them. And the minute that their son was beyond me, they never spoke to me again, ever. There are people that were rude to me until they found out that their kid was going to play in our organization, and all of a sudden they were nice to me. That's politics. Is it right? Is it wrong? It's just the way it's done. So you're right. There is some level of politics and money involved in this, but getting back to tryouts, main camps, and combines, you're going to spend the same amount of money doing them no matter where you're at. Tier 3, Tier 2, Tier 1, you're going to spend a few $100 to do a combine, okay? You're going to spend it for a tryout. You're going to spend it for a showcase. If you're playing youth hockey, you're going to spend it on a tournament. Every kid pays to get into a tournament through their team's tuition. So it's relative. You just accept the fact that you're going to have to spend money to do this stuff, but the reward is you do get ice time, you do get exposure, and you do get experience, and those things all come with this across the board. So, hey, look, I've been going for an hour now. Let's see. But don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm just trying to keep it from just stirring up the pot for me. I don't want to spend the rest of the night doing mea culpa emails back to people that I feel are important in the industry that actually spend some time getting to know all of you. You'll never know they're watching or listening, but we have a lot of people in the hockey community that are involved with this. So let's see if there's one last question. Let's see who we're going to go to for the last one. Okay, so here's one that I'm going to answer this. Probably, Andrew, not the way you're expecting. What's your opinion on the Colorado Thunderbirds, and do you have a personal favorite AAA Bantam team for a kid in a draft-eligible year? So what do I think about the Colorado Thunderbirds? It's relative to who wants to play for the Colorado Thunderbirds. Each year is a different team. Each year is a different situation. Look, the Tier 1 Elite League is a great league to be in. And if it looks like it lines up and that's the way you can get into that league, then you get into that league with that team. If they're going to be one of the better teams, that's great. If you can play for a better team and you know that it's going to be a high echelon team, top third, top quarter, top 10% of the league, and it's doable and feasible, you always want to be on the best team. And I've got a video on that I will prove to you without a doubt, without any hesitation, how it works. The best teams always place the most players to the next level, period. That's the way it works. And I'll use every single junior team for you. An example, I've done this in videos before. You can look at the BCHL, the North American Hockey League. You can look at the AJHL, the USHL, the NCDC. Every team that's in first place has the most commitments to college, Division I colleges, every one of those leagues. I've got a video on that. You can go to our YouTube page. I forget what it's called right now. I'll put it in the notes afterwards, what that video is. But you always want to play for the best you can play for. If the Thunderbirds are it, or if that's what you can do as a family and it's a good fit for you, that's great. Because remember, the league is as important as the team. If you can make that level to the league, then you can start looking around to see where you fit in that league. But get into that league first. And, if albeit that's one choice, HPHL, the Beast, the AYHL, whatever the league is, attain that level and then try to make the best you can in there. So if the Thunderbirds are a choice, that's fine. So the next question was on there was about, do I have a personal favorite Bantam team for a draft eligible year? So I'm assuming that when you say draft eligible, are talking about the Western WHL league in Canada as an American, because the West does get WHL experience. Are you talking about draft eligible for the underage draft for the USHL? In either case, it's very easy to do the homework on this and to find out where the players are coming from. Once again, just use Elite Prospects and do your own homework on this. It doesn't matter what I think. The statistics are out there for you, and they're there to grab. In other words, just take that draft list. If it's the USHL draft list, and I do have videos out there where I've already broken it down for you, just not for this year. This pandemic is kind of throwing me for a loop on waiting for everything to catch up, and I'm waiting for the BCHL to get up and running. I'm waiting for all the leagues to, remember, there's teams inside the North American Hockey League that only have 1 or 2 games in already, and we're in January. So I'm trying to let everything flush out before I start putting out lists and telling you how things look. But if you're worried about the USHL draft and what team is the best team to play for from there, just pull up the draft list. Pull up my video, pull up the draft list, and look back through Elite Prospects and find out where those players played. It's pretty simple. And you can figure out the patterns right away on where those players are coming from. And it's pretty evident of where those kids are playing. Same thing with the WHL. If you're looking at playing in the major juniors for the Western League, same thing. You can specifically look, and especially if you're an American up there, there's only a few American programs that they actually pull from, and you can look and see where they're coming from. Hopefully that helps a little bit on that question. It was a great question across the board. I really have got to slow down because we're out of time, but I'm going to take one more, only because Lauren's got a cool picture. I'm going to throw Lauren up here. And what is your opinion on the USPHL, specifically the Tampa hub? We did a show a couple weeks ago about the hub and the bubble type situation. Go back a couple weeks. You can pull up the show that talks about the USPHL bubble. The USPHL has a unique product. It's a self-contained product. There's 2 different types of junior hockey. There are junior hockey teams that are teams of destination. What does that mean? A team of destination means it's a team that will get you to the next level. Once you're there, you stay with that team until you move on to play Division I or Division III college hockey. So leagues of destination, the USHL, the United States Hockey League, is a league of destination, meaning you go there, you're not going any higher after that. You're going from there, and you're going on to play Division I college hockey. The NAHL is a league of destination. That doesn't mean that you won't see players from the North American Hockey League move up to the USHL. They do. But by and large, if you're in the North American Hockey League, you don't need to go anywhere. It's a league of destination. The USPHL feeds the NCDC. Now, the NCDC has teams that are teams of destination. The Hitmen, New Jersey Hitmen. Once you're there, you don't have to go anywhere else. They will get you to the next level. If you're a D3 player, there are teams inside the USPHL and the NCDC that are teams of destination. You get there, you can see a path. You can see the kids that are 1, 2, 3, 4 years ahead of you, that they made it to play Division III hockey. However, the USPHL is also a league of transition, meaning a lot of players in the markets, the Southeast markets, the non-traditional markets that are USPHL teams that are throughout the United States, will play in that league 1 year before they end up somewhere else. So it's a league of transition and destination. So know that when you get involved that, yes, you might get an offer for a team inside the USPHL. It may not be your final stop. It may not be your final place to play. And that's about all I can tell you about that in this short amount of time. But Lauren, thank you so much for that question. And hopefully you can get some more information from the other videos we did. Folks, we filled up over an hour. I apologize, I didn't want to go an hour. It's going to be a great year. We've got a ton of new content. I'm actually going to do some things different this year as we grow this, and I just beg you, please go on and like and follow our Junior Hockey Advisor page. Do it tonight. Get off here and go over there and do that if you could for me. Make sure you're involved with our discussion group. No matter what I say, it's relative to the group. The group it just has this incredible way of giving you great information and steering very positive responses to people. Take advantage of that. Go to our YouTube page. Make sure you like and follow, subscribe, do all that stuff that you got to do on YouTube. It'll make my life a lot easier as we try to grow this. Got a lot of great stuff coming up. Look forward to seeing you next week. Happy New Year, everybody. Have a great 2021. I can't wait to see you next week. See ya. Take care.